It happens more often than people like to admit. The talent is there, the creativity is there, and the people are working. But somehow, the project has no end. You thought you'd be done in a few months. New ideas appeared. Features took longer than expected. Feedback changed direction. Everything felt necessary. But now, you don't know when the game will release. The deadline keeps moving. The budget is shrinking faster than planned. And if you have a publisher or stakeholder, they're asking for clarity you don't have. You're working hard, but you feel stuck. That is not a motivation problem. That's a production structure problem. And fortunately, it's solvable. My name is Norman Lista. I work for more than 10 years in software and game production. In 2014, I was asked to step into a studio that was running out of time and money. They had funding, they got talent. Everyone was working, but they had already spent more than 30,000 euros. They had a deadline in 6 months and a publisher that was asking questions that nobody could answer. Nobody knew how much is left. What should we cut? Will we even make it? The game had potential, but no structure. I stepped into what felt like a sinking boat. And by applying the exact principles I'm about to show you, I managed to finish the project together with the team on time and within the budget. Later, the game called Dog Paradox was nominated for Best Game Latin America at Gamescom 2025. So let's talk about what actually went wrong, because it's probably happening in your studio. There are 4 main structural problems that drain indie studios. The first one is unclear priorities. Everything feels important. The feedback you get from your friends and others, new features that need to be in the game, polish ideas, new ideas. But if everything is important, nothing truly is. Unclear priorities make work feel busy, but fragile. The second structural problem is undefined completion. What does done mean? If you cannot define what done looks like for a feature, it will come back again and again. Revisions expand, polish stretches. The more ambiguous your definition of done is for your features, the more uncertainty grows. Then we have scope without boundaries. Creative freedom without constraints turns into drift. When the scope has no boundaries, the project grows silently. Many developers believe that by having constraints around the scope, they're letting creativity die. But that doesn't kill creativity, it protects it. And last but not least, we have no production visibility. If nothing is clearly documented and tracked, you cannot answer what is finished, what is left, how long will it take, what happens if we cut something. And if you cannot answer that, neither can your team nor your publisher, and that destroys trust. Production needs to be visible. As you can see, the 4 structural problems depend on each other, and none of them can be solved properly if the others are not taken into consideration. So by understanding that, here's the important part. It's not about working harder. It's about installing a production system. Here, is what changes everything. You need fixed priorities for a defined work cycle. You have to distribute your work in sprints of a specific amount of time and prioritize what needs to be done in each one of them. A written definition of done for every feature. When you're deciding a feature, you need to know exactly what it needs to be. Document it and stick with it as much as possible. Clear scope boundaries per cycle. You have to understand how much work can be done and should be done on each sprint. Realistic estimation based on actual capacity. Don't estimate your work amount based only on time. It needs to be a combination of effort and availability during each sprint. A structured rhythm for planning and review. Once you have your working cycles, you can start adding meetings around the work cycle until your team gets used to it. This way, you can finally start predicting how much work is left because you have a routine. And one that's all set, you need to have transparent alignment with stakeholders. By having your documentation and predictions in order, you can finally start talking clearly to your stakeholders, or even understand that yourself if you're working without one of them, and align. When we implemented this structure inside Doc Paradox, chaos stopped multiplying. Milestones started reducing uncertainty instead of increasing it. The team aligned. Conversations with the publisher became calm instead of stressful. Structure didn't limit creativity, it protected it. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Most studios understand these principles. They agree with them, but they don't know how to implement them internally. How do you break down features properly? How do you estimate without lying to yourself? How do you run planning without turning it into chaos? How do you prevent scope creep without suffocating innovation? How do you align with stakeholders when you don't have clarity yourself? These are not mindset questions. They are implementation questions. And implementation requires a system. This is why I build a complete course specifically for small to mid-size indie studios. It walks you step by step on how to implement this structure inside your team. It covers how to structure production cycles, how to define scope properly, to estimate realistically, to coordinate teams without chaos, how to align with publishers and stakeholders, how to protect creativity while moving towards release. This is not based on theory. It's based on real production experience. And if you're serious about protecting your budget, your time, and your studio's future, the next step is to implement the structure properly. You can explore the full course below. Your studio does not need more effort. It needs clarity. And clarity is built, not hoped for.